Brothers, I'm back with another scary story. A slave with a bad reputation is now on the loose. Her name is Xiao Mei, a college student. She had a bright future, but her mother had a strange illness. She spent all her savings to hire doctors, but couldn't find out what illness she had. She could only lie in bed every day and couldn't even make a sound. Xiao Mei decided to go home to take care of her mother in order to cut down on her family's expenses and treat her illness. When her mother was busy, she could only ring the bell to ask for help. But this time, her mother's condition was very strange. Her bell-ringing frequency was much higher than before, and her expression was so terrified that she stared at the ceiling. She seemed to see something very scary. But when Xiao Mei looked over, she didn't see anything. Then Xiao Mei didn't think so much. After all, her mother had a similar situation before. It's just a little exaggeration this time. Don't worry, but soon something even more terrible happened. This evening, Xiao Mei was sleeping. Suddenly, the ringing sound from the second floor woke her up. She knew her mother needed help, so she rushed to her mother's room. When Xiao Mei pushed the door open, she was stunned. She saw her mother in a white wedding dress standing in front of the window. Xiao Mei was very confused. Isn't it impossible for a mother to move? She asked her mother how she got up, but her mother didn't answer. So Xiao Mei walked forward. However, at this time, Xiao Mei heard the ringing sound from the side of the bed. It was her mother lying on the bed. Her mother's face was so terrified that she was crazy. The one on the bed was her mother. Who was the person standing there? Fortunately, it was just a nightmare. But is it really just a nightmare? At this time, Xiao Mei heard the ringing sound. Again. When Xiao Mei went to her mother's room, she found that the nightmare she had just had happened in reality. What the hell is going on? At this time, her mother opened her mouth. She was terrified. After her mother fell to the ground, she died. She seemed to be scared to death by something, but Xiao Mei didn't notice it. She thought her mother died naturally. Xiao Mei's crying also attracted the whole family. Everyone was sad about her mother's death. At the same time, they felt relieved. The next day, they held a funeral for her mother. They thought that with her mother's death, the family's life would get better, and the strange things Xiao Mei encountered could also disappear. But what happened next was beyond everyone's imagination. On the second night of her mother's death, Xiao Mei's younger brother Xiao Shuai had a terrible thing. At this time, Xiao Shuai was using a radio to play his favorite songs. However, when Xiao Shuai was about to go to bed, the radio changed the channel by itself. Unconsciously, Xiao Shuai turned it back. As a result, Xiao Shuai just laid down and the channel was switched back. Xiao Shuai was confused. What's the situation? Is it broken? However, the next second, the sound of his mother's voice suddenly came out in the radio. The moment the light was turned on, his mother was gone. What the hell is going on? And not only Xiao Shuai encountered this strange thing. At this time, the two younger brothers got up in the middle of the night and went to the bathroom. However, when they went back, Xiao Shuai saw his mother's will hanging in the corridor. It was extremely creepy. His mother seemed to run out in the next second. So Xiao Shuai took a white bedsheet and was going to cover his mother's will. However, when Xiao Shuai threw the bedsheet to the will, he did not cover the will, but covered a person. Xiao Shuai was confused at the moment. What's the situation? Anyway, it must not be a person. Xiao Shuai carefully pulled Xiao Shuai to prepare to leave. Xiao Mei ran to the room to check. Xiao Shuai shouted loudly. There was a ghost next to the will, but Xiao Mei did not see anything. She thought Xiao Shuai was mentally disturbed, but what happened next was getting more and more strange. The next day, Xiao Mei's grandmother suddenly stood up painfully from the will. She went to somewhere uncontrollably. When Xiao Mei finished shopping and returned home, she suddenly heard her brothers scream. Xiao Mei quickly ran over to check. She only saw her brother pointing at the well and said there was a dead person inside. Xiao Mei looked down and saw that her grandmother was dead inside, and her grandmother had just died. The fourth child in the family suddenly fell ill. In just 3 days, 2 people died in the family, and her brother was also ill. At this moment, Xiao Mei felt that this house was very strange. She told her father-in-law to move. "This place can't stay. There is always something wrong." But Dashan thought Xiao Mei was thinking too much, and they just moved out of this house. Where to live? In addition, their family did not have much money to support the move. But Xiao Mei did not want to wait. She packed up and was ready to run away at any time. And it was in the room where Xiao Mei packed up her grandmother that she found a letter from her grandmother. This letter was sent to an old man, and the letter said, "Save our family." Xiao Mei felt that there must be a big secret. So Xiao Mei found the village's Dazhuang, let the other party ride a motorcycle to take her to the city. According to the address in the letter, Xiao Mei found the old man's house. And this old man was a primary school classmate of her grandmother. At the same time, he was also a master. When the master finished reading the letter, Xiao Mei learned a shocking truth from the master. It turned out that Xiao Mei's mother had been infertile. At that time, her grandmother was very mean to her mother. Her mother couldn't stand and her grandmother's attitude. So her mother signed a contract with Satan, and this contract is to have a child. But later, Xiao Mei's mother learned a terrible truth. That is, after the last child is born at the age of 7, he must give this sacrifice to Satan. His mother finally had a child. Of course, she didn't agree to be sacrificed. So she raised a child until she was 6 years old. Then she gave birth to another child. It's been a cycle of bugs. After Satan knew it, he couldn't accept it at all. He thought I was a fool, so Satan cursed his mother to be sick. He couldn't move, let alone give birth, until his mother died. And after his mother died, Satan's goal was transferred to the fourth. He must take the fourth back to hell. Knowing the truth, Xiao Mei felt very scared. He even asked the master if there was any way to stop such a thing from happening. The master said, "As long as your family loves each other, Satan can't separate you." As soon as Xiao Mei returned home, he began to pray sincerely. However, at this time, there was a ghost, shadow behind Xiao Mei. At that moment, Xiao Mei felt a chill in her back. She seemed to have sensed it. However, when she turned around and looked over, there was nothing. There was nothing on the left. There was nothing on the right. Xiao Mei sighed. However, something happened to Xiao Mei when she was praying. After so many strange things, Xiao Mei hurried to hide in the neighbor's house with her family. She only hid for a while, but they know that Satan won't let them go easily. He won't let the fourth go either. So Dashan immediately decided to pack up and run away. However, when Dashan and Xiao Mei were discussing what to move first, they suddenly heard their son's cry. Dashan and Xiao Mei hurried over to find out what happened. It turned out that Xiaoshan had just taken the fourth to the bathroom to pee. Suddenly, the door of the room was closed. It was obvious that Satan was doing evil and wanted to take the fourth away. Dashan tried his best to knock on the door. Finally, the door opened, but the fourth was pulled into the well by Satan. Dashan jumped into the well to save his son. Fortunately, Dashan jumped in time. Then he picked up his son. But there was still a long way to go. Suddenly, many men in black came out of the house. They slowly walked towards the house. Everyone was afraid. Xiao Mei quickly closed the door. When the men in black came in, the wheelchair that Grandma had once ridden moved. Everyone hurried to hide in another room. As a result, the door was closed. They were trapped, and the fourth outside was in danger. He was sucked by a strange force, and behind him was a ghost who was approaching him. The old man shouted to his brother behind the pillar, begging him to save him. But when his brother turned around and saw the ghost, He was scared and didn't dare to talk, but he listened to his brother's plea and overcame his fear. In the end, he ran over to save his brother, and the ghost disappeared. At the same time, the door over there also opened. Seeing that the two children were fine, Dashan was very angry. He rushed out of the house with a knife and cursed at the men in black. "You bastards! I will never allow you to take my child away." And the men in black didn't go up to heaven. They just threw something on the ground and left. Seeing the strange people leave, Dashan's family finally breathed a sigh of relief. They thought they had defeated Satan. The next day, they happily packed up and prepared to move. However, they waited until noon, and the moving company did not come. At that time, the village chief came. The village chief was the only one who had a phone in the village. He told Dashan that the moving company had called him and said that the car was broken and needed to be weighted. Dashan thought, let's wait and chat with the village chief. He found that the things the men in black threw away were red seeds. He didn't know what the seeds were for. They waited until nightfall. The moving company did not come. Dashan asked the children to go to bed and talked about the moving company tomorrow. At that time, the electricity was suddenly cut off. People thought that the electricity was cut off. This is the calm before the storm. Soon the whole family went back to their rooms to rest. Until midnight, San was woken up by a hoarse voice. When he opened his eyes, he found that his brother was standing in front of the window. What did he say? San was also very scared, but he still asked his brother what he was doing. His brother turned around and showed a strange smile on his face and walked out quietly. Didn't answer San's question at all. At the same time, Dashan was sleeping on the other side. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound. He turned around and looked to the side. There was a dead body next to him. This scared Dashan so much that he ran out of the room and locked the door. In a hurry, Xiaomei and Xiao Shuai woke up. This place couldn't wait for a minute. They had to run quickly. Then they came to San's room. San was terrified and said that his brother was taken away by the devils. Hearing this, Dashan couldn't stand it anymore. The alliance rushed out of the room to save his son. But the little son was standing with a group of devils. And San also said, "Dad, come here and play with me." Dashan was stunned. "What's going on?" Xiao Shuai hurried up and pulled Dashan back to the house. His brother was obviously a fool. San was still trying to save his brother. "Let's run quickly." It turned out that these devils were going to rush into